Let's give it a shot.
Let's give it a whirl. Welcome to the Sports Wrap. George Ringer. I think we're in London or San Francisco with the weather today.
Well, isn't that something?
I think I understand why Dirty Harry was so dirty. He was ticked off at the Withers.
No.
You might get a little kung fu fighting out of me tonight because this weather is, ooh, the fog and the rain and the drizzle, and it's going to turn ugly in the next 18 hours or so.
Sue said, I'm worried about you slipping and falling and hurting yourself. So, when you come back, if it's still raining, this is the route I want you to take. You know, and it's just like, anyway. Yeah, I don't, no point in arguing with that.
No, I got out of the vehicle out here, and I knew I was on ice, and I stepped out, and it was a good thing I had a hold of the door and the car when I did it, because as soon as my feet hit, it was time to go for a ride, and luckily, there are no broken bones in my right now. Hopefully, we've jinxed any possibility of injury. So, there's so many places we can start, George. I know I say that every week,
but there really is.
So what would we like to start with?
Well, I don't care. I want to take a look at my notes here.
Let's start with Gopher basketball.
We can start. That's a very good place to start.
That's a good place to start.
Yes, it is. Yes.
And after a loss to Michigan State last week, they righted the ship. Matter of fact, they've got tongues wagging all over the nation after beating Michigan on the road on Saturday.
Well, remember last year's Gopher teams was 0-10 on the road.
And how could we forget, George?
So, you know, they've already got 2 wins on the road against, and I mean, this Texas A&M Corpus Christi they were no slouch. They ran the court well. They were quick. They were a nuisance defensively.
There's a good word for it, nuisance. And you know, the Gophers looked decent in the first half last night. In the second half, it's like they lost interest. Like, well, we've got this game won, and then you know, I would say they had to hang on. I mean, it wasn't probably that bad. Yeah. Probably being a little dramatic, but
no. I think that's pretty much. But they hit again a couple of threes, and
this is a great game for Ben Johnson, the head coach. When things start going south on him, when the boys seem disinterested in what's going on,
he had a coach.
All he's going to have to say is, guys, do you remember Corpus Christi? I don't mean to get religious on it, but you guys remember the basketball game that you guys just about puked away to a team that you guys should have blown off the floor?
No.
Let's remember that, and let's get back to work here, okay? I don't think there has to be anything more said than that. Like I said, they lost focus.
Well, you know, and the thing of it is, when they beat Michigan, they played pretty well offensively, but defense is where they really had to come up with the big one. Big Dickinson, 7'1".
Did you feel like they were going to let it go? They were going to play 32 minutes.
And they almost did. And then they pulled away again.
So that's a good sign. They're playing fearless right now, I think.
Well, you know,
and that's good stuff.
Well, my good friend Russi says something like, "I can't believe this team." He says, "But keep in mind, most of them are seniors. They just come from other places. They weren't going to give them any play time, and these guys knew, a lot of them, Sutherland in particular. I mean, he comes out and whoever heard of this guy, and all of a sudden he's banging away threes like they're going out of style. What did they hit, 7 the first half the other night? Well, that's a lot of threes, and so, you know, but then again, you're right, they kind of fell asleep.
During the game last night on Big Ten Network, they gave the power rankings of the teams in the Big Ten. Minnesota was 6th, and the color guy goes, I don't think we can ever get them above 5 unless they keep winning. Unless they keep winning. 5 might be a stretch for this team because there's too many good teams in the Big Ten. But if they, reality is gonna, Cinderella, how long can they keep going on?
Because I don't know, but
they're only 7.5, 8 deep. We keep talking about it, but it doesn't seem to matter.
Everybody was predicting they'd get 2 wins in the Big Ten, and I was sitting around going and gone and saying, yeah, that's probably true. but I think they're more likely to get 6 or 7. And you know, and they're hard to beat in the barn. I mean, Michigan State. Yeah, it would have been nice to bump those guys off in the barn, but it didn't happen. On the other hand, you go to Ann Arbor and beat a pretty good basketball team, and you know, so who's to say? Now in the Big Ten, I see Big Kofi Annan is coming back, and he's Cochran, and I saw him play the other day. Oh,
he's still mean?
Yeah, big too, and
he's gotten bigger. He was already.
He really does rule the paint, and you know, you sit around and, I mean, in order to defend him, you have to go to both sides of him at once, and it's tough to do.
I just want to say this about the Gophers: even if they poop the bed, even if they pee on themselves over the Big Ten, even if they don't win another game the rest of the year, it sure was a fun ride for the first 6 weeks.
Well,
I mean,
it sure was, and you know, and I don't think that they're over.
No,
yet.
I'm not saying that, but they could.
Yeah.
I mean, we saw what happened last year. We were pretty excited about where the things were, and then it absolutely went god awful. And hey, it could go bad.
Yeah.
Navy beat Army. I think that's going to come up later. I think probably not too happily either. So, what else college basketball?
Well, you know, let me see here. Well, the first thing in question I have is what's going on. They beat Michigan, and that big Dickinson kid in Texas A&M Corpus Christi. This team is going to show up the rest of the year. I'm really happy for Ben Johnson. And somebody brought this up. Rick Pitino was not a Golden Gopher. You know, Munson was not a Golden Gopher. You know, it goes right down the list, right down to Tubby Smith. No Golden Gophers. Ben Johnson, he's got maroon and gold blood, and there's nothing he can do about it. He's from Minnesota. He's been, you know, he gets brainwashed just like you and I. So I think that this is the big difference. He really sees himself as given an opportunity to come home and do good, and he's got a good coaching staff with him. So
yeah, Dave Thorson is pretty good. You know, he was at De La Salle for how many years?
Oh,
he knows things fairly well. So
yeah.
What's next? You stick with basketball?
Let's do it. You know, because I watched a little bit last night, and I watched the sports this morning and saw this Stephon Curry kid.
Steph Curry.
Yeah.
Seems like I've heard that name.
He is amazing, you know, and it's just like people say, well, at his age, he shouldn't be scoring 50 points a game and all the rest. He's 33. He is going to be scoring threes for a long time.
As three crazy as this league is, and I don't see it ever going back away from that.
I don't either.
Steph will put the number out there of made threes so far out that nobody will ever touch it.
I don't think they will.
Of course, we said that about Kareem.
We did.
And you know, not that he's been overtaken, but there's a lot of guys that have gotten close. But Steph, as you mentioned, just 33. He's going to be probably shooting threes till he's 40. So give him another 7 seasons, and he averages probably what? 4 or 5 made a game, so that's 400.
Well, when you sit down and watch him, he makes 2 or 3 trips down the floor and hits a 3 on each one, and they set him right up for the. Well, he can do it all over the court, but you know, he just bam, he got a 3. He got the ball, bam, he gets a 3. I mean, within a minute and 5 seconds, he's got three threes, and he's just warming up.
Well, I think last week he needed 15 to get to the record, and they were talking that maybe he might get them all in one game because. Well, other teams said, you know what, you're not going to do it against us, you're not going to do it against us. Well, he did it in Madison Square Garden last night, and I know when you were growing up, Madison Square Garden was the place. It was the place, along with Boston Garden. It was the place. If you did something, that was the place. I don't feel that way about Madison Square Garden anymore because the Knicks and the Rangers, they aren't the way they used to be. They don't hold the big boxing matches there. Well, maybe they do. We just don't ever hear about them. So the fact they did in Madison Square Garden, I mean, 25 years ago, that would have been big. Today,
no. I kind of got to agree with you.
But he thought it was pretty special. I think he was just trying to grease the wheel so the Knicks would let them get the record.
Well, no, I don't
Nothing wrong
think
with that.
No, hey, they come to see Stefan shoot, and I remember one time, and I bring this up from time to time, in the late '60s, we went to a Gopher basketball game, and Rick Mount was pitching for Purdue, and he got 48 points that night, and they did not have a three-point circle, and we went to see this game. Well, besides Ollie Shannon, we went to see this game because of Rick Mount, and we walked away. Our mouth was wide open, and well worth the ticket. We got to see a classic. So, these shooters are fun to watch, and they make a difference in today's game. And I think that's the same way with the Gophers. And they're going to be fine as long as they hit those threes.
Everybody's fine as long as they hit it.
You know how the rest of that story goes. Now, let's get to the Timberwolves, because D'Angelo Russell comes back, and they start thumping people again. And it's, they break their thing. And then so...
5-game losing streak they broke when he comes back?
5-game losing streak. Well, this is it. They're 12-10 when Russell's playing. And they're 0-5 when he's not. And so I didn't know whether or not, is that Russell's defense? I wasn't sure about that.
I don't know if it's the defense, but it's an attitude. I think when he's on the floor, there's this, I don't want to say invincibility, but that they got, you know how you got all the bullets in your gun. I don't know if that's a good analogy, but you're ready to go. You got everybody there. And he's one of the big ones. You got to have him.
Well, they've got three solid every night ball players, and then you add Beverly. I mean,
he was gone for 2 weeks.
And he was gone for 2 weeks. So I mean, and then there's a little thing that pulls me back. Don't get too cocky here, And it's just like.
Well, the scary part is, if the playoffs started today, they would get a chance to play to get into the playoffs. They're in the 9th spot.
Yeah.
And they would play Denver, who they're playing tonight, who's in the 8th seed.
Big game tonight, by the way.
Big game tonight with
Denver. I'm going to be watching that.
Nikolai Jokic went for 33 and 19, I think, the other night.
Yeah.
And if the Wolves can keep him in check, they got a good chance to win.
No, the Nugs were always one of my favorite teams. They're kind of a guttural type run team.
Yeah, there you go. The Wolves, I think, are going to hang in there. They're going to be right around 500. Be great if they got to 45 wins, 45 and 37.
Yeah,
I think that's a heck of a goal for this team, and keep building and see what the heck happens. Like I said, it's interesting to watch because they've been so uninteresting for so long that any interest seems crazy.
Oh, so. Isn't that true? Right. Isn't that true?
So before we move on, I got a feeling by this time people are watching. They're like, are they wearing the same shirt?
Yes.
What's going on? So I'm going to get a little closer and let everybody see the shirt up close. That's our good friend George Freight in his Blues Hour uniform with his lid and Billie Holiday.
Billie Holiday.
And on the shirt. And I know once these shirts get out in the public, and there's a few been out, I suspect maybe we're going to have to put them on sale because who doesn't want a George Freight t-shirt? That's what I say. Everybody wants a George Freight t-shirt.
I'm absolutely sure of that.
So anyway, anything else basketball-wise before I get it?
I really can't think of anything right now, but the Gophers, when did they go again? I can't.
Who do they play next?
Yeah.
They've got Wisconsin, Green Bay.
Oh.
Next, they got a week off.
Yeah,
they got to get
Wisconsin.
finals done. They're going to school, George. I don't know if you forgot about it, but they got to get those finals done. They need a little time. So
I had a coach that used to insist on that too. He was awful.
Crazy people.
Yeah.
So let's move to hockey.
Let's move to hockey.
Let's talk hockey. The Wild.
My humble opinion, they're either one or two in the entire league.
Yeah, standings wise, that's where they're at. It's going to be fun to see. It would have been fun to watch them against Carolina.
Yep.
Because Carolina is one of those top 5 teams, and unfortunately Carolina is having COVID issues, and we could spend the next 10 minutes just talking about the COVID issues that are going on in all the sports.
All the sports.
I mean, the NHL was considering like stopping play.
Yeah.
Just everybody go home for 10 days, and we'll see if we can stop this. Not to say that couldn't happen. but they were Carolina. They did very well against Toronto, who's one of the top teams. Washington, excuse me, is out there, and Florida. Even though they lost to Florida, of course, Tampa Bay, the two-time defending champs, they've shown themselves well. They lost to Vegas on the road at the end of a 4-game road trip, back-to-back nights. Not surprised that they lost to Vegas. Tough loss in LA. That one probably bugs me the worst. But this team still is the top of the Central with their 39 points after they won in San Jose on Thursday. They were number 1 in the league point-wise. Yeah. And so everybody is stepping up. The defensemen, you listen to Evison, he's talking about the D. Everybody's talking about how good the offense is playing. Hartman, blah, 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 and Kirill. And he says it's the reason why we're winning is because of the defense. We're playing good defense in front of our goaltenders, and they're being offensive as well.
And Cam Talbot he's having an exceptional season, and it's
Cam's out of his mind right now. He's dialed in. I hope he can stay dialed in till about June.
They're the most fun hockey team that I've watched in a long time. They're young, they skate, they go zip, zip, zip. I mean, this is really a skate and fool team, and they seem to be having a good time. And it's
and Bill Guerin was rewarded. He's the GM for the Olympic hockey team, and so he gets rewarded for his team having a pretty good start. Bill, I think, knows, he obviously knows what he's doing.
Yeah.
It's interesting about the Canadian teams that the Canadians are gonna have to isolate before they get on the plane to go to Beijing. So some of these NHL players, because the NHL players
are going to be out for a couple of weeks,
they're going to have to miss part of their regular season, plus the time that they're in Beijing, and then when they come back, so a lot of these Canadian hockey players are going, wait a minute, is this what I really want to do? So how is this going to affect the Olympics? Crazy stuff with the NHL, and of course, we mentioned Carolina having to cancel the game on Tuesday night with the Wild. They had to leave 3 people in Canada, 2 players and a support staff person. Then they get to Minneapolis and they get 4 more players that are tested positive. And like they said, everybody's vaccinated on the team. Everybody's wearing their masks when they're supposed to be. Yet here we are. We're in this situation, and the NFL had 37 players on Monday test positive, including 4 Vikings, I think it was.
There's 6 now.
6 now?
Yeah, okay. I got a list here.
So, and of course, some of those are unvaccinated, which makes a difference on your return and when you can come back and how long you got to stay out. And of course, one of those is Madison, who's out, and we had to pick up some guy I've never heard of, the Gallant or Galach or Galash or some whatever.
Well, we have Madison, we have Christina, the receiver, Kyle Hinton, our offensive guard, and then today they had D.D. Westbrook, A.J. Rose, and Tristan Jackson. So that's 2 receivers, and the Jackson thing is because we don't know whether Adam Thielen is going to be back in full bloom. So this is going to be an issue, and I don't know it's affecting the Vikings any worse than it's affecting other teams. In fact,
some other teams are really getting.
Well, what can you say? The Rams placed 6 of their players Tuesday morning on COVID restrictions Monday night after the game. Yeah,
interesting that it happened after the game.
Isn't that interesting? And so
against Arizona.
Against Arizona, and they were all happy and celebrating, and then 6 players. Ooh, that looks bad.
Well, and then the Nets won last night in overtime. They only had 8 players available. That's all they had because of COVID. They only had 8 players available. So this is striking all sports, and like I said, it's just when we thought maybe it was going to go away.
The Vikings have quarantined 22 players, and Dakota Dozier has been in the hospital. And so everybody wondered, where was Dozier? Yeah, he was out. So this disease just isn't going to go away. And I'm looking at the games, and there's nobody masked. I was at a hockey game this weekend. I'm just like nobody was masked.
Yep.
And but that's a small collection compared to 14, 15,000 people in a hockey stadium or basketball, or not to mention football.
That's crazy. Absolutely. So, a little college hockey before we leave hockey and get into the football, because I can feel we're drifting that way. But college hockey, lots of splits over the weekend, including UMD with Denver. Two totally opposite games. 5-0 Denver wins the first night. UMD comes back and wins 6-2. 6-2, excuse me.
The second night I watched the game. Second night, I watched it the first night and flipped off. The second night, I couldn't believe they dominated.
Yeah. You just don't know.
No, you don't.
Kids, things happen. I was concerned when UMD had lost 3 in a row. Kind of got my attention, but of course the Gophers were off. North Dakota did sweep Bemidji State, I think. Mankato beat Bemidji State. North Dakota swept. Doesn't matter. Anyway, most everything else was a split last week, so we're kind of at the halfway mark of the season, because everybody's going to take a break for the holidays, and then they get right into it right after New Year's and get things started.
Well, I think what you have to take a look. North Dakota, Bemidji, Mankato State, UMD, St. Cloud. We still have real solid hockey, and it's just like all these outstate schools. They're going to be right back in the mix like they were last year.
Yeah. Hopefully that mix will still be there in March. Hopefully we'll be able to keep things rolling here. And of course, Minnesota and UMD in women's hockey, a split for the Dogs, which is always good, especially when you're playing down at Ritter.
Yep.
And hey, you take your wins when you can get them. There's nothing easy out there, that's for sure.
No.
Anything else hockey-wise?
They're getting right down to the nitpick. They're going to have, I'm sure, a week off for Christmas, and then they're going to come back, and after the first of the year, it goes really wild,
They announced the World Junior Hockey Team members.
Excuses.
Here's our good friend.
Yeah.
Okay, so remember we talked about Patrick Mahomes?
We talked about Patrick Mahomes.
And I want him to win the Super Bowl.
Why?
I don't know, I just think they're...
You just think he should win again?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I don't understand. People tell me, oh, they're not going to win, they're not going to do that. Why is that?
I think because people don't want them to, and they looked so bad early in the season. But after they beat Las Vegas 48-9 the other day, they might be back. They might be for real.
Right?
I think maybe they're just resting up, letting everybody feel good about themselves, and now it's time.
Right?
Could be. Could be fun.
Merry Christmas, Mr. Ringhoffer. Merry Christmas, George.
Merry Christmas, Marianne.
Ready?
You're ready for the pass-through. There you go. See, everybody wants to be on the rack.
That's the whole idea.
Everybody. Everybody wants to be on the rack.
Everybody.
That's our halftime show. Thanks to everybody. Sponsored by
kind of cheerleaders type thing. Yeah.
So let's go back to the Vikings.
Yes.
I'd like to start there.
Okay.
So did they win that game by a blowout, or did they not?
Well, if it would have gone to halfway through the third quarter, it was a blowout. After that, it was, and I don't.
Scarier than.
It really stunk up the place. The thing of it is about this fourth quarter dilemma that the Vikings seem to find themselves. They seem to find themselves in it over and over again, and and they talk about dodge a bullet. And Big Ben took these guys apart in that fourth quarter, and Pittsburgh's going to always play you tough. The Vikings really blew a hell of a lead, though, and it's just like it's.
I know everybody, of course, is in a panic, and we're playing too much prevent and whatever else. But you got to remember, we're still a little thin up front.
Yeah, we are.
You're not probably going to get pressure on. Do you blitz? Those are the things that you can get concerned about. When it was 29-0, I was ready to turn it off and go to bed. But the Wild were coming on, so I kept them both on, kind of like, well, I'll keep the Vikings on, but I'm watching the Wild. And then I got a sick feeling in my stomach when Cousins threw that interception that got returned. And of course, everybody's blaming it on Kirk Cousins. Kirk Cousins had a horrible game, everybody's telling me. And I didn't get to watch it because I was doing basketball. I didn't get to watch the first half. But when you're up 29-0, how can you tell me your quarterback played horrible?
No. For first half, he was untouchable.
So the interception that got returned, you saw,
yes.
What's his name, Osborne, slipped a little bit, and the guy stepped in and intercepted it. You can't blame that one on Kirk Cousins. You can't.
You can't even blame it on Osborne.
But people are.
This is the way the game works.
Apparently the other interception he threw in the game, it was right in Jefferson's hands. He bobbled it and got picked up. Yet he's getting blamed, and I'm just like.
Well, it's like one of the things, if you were a Pittsburgh fan watching this, you would say it was the comeback of the year. And the Vikings, who won the game, are saying it was horrible. I can't figure this out. It's just a little bit weird. But they went in, and as narrow as they took care of business, they did take care of business. And it's
a win? Hey, we won by 8 points.
Yes.
2 weeks before that, we lost to San Francisco by 8 points, and everybody was like, gloom. And weren't we down there with a chance to, and he missed Jefferson, Kirk Cousins missed Jefferson with a chance to put it that close. And everybody's like, oh, we're the worst team ever. Well, we won by 8 points, folks. The Vikings won. They didn't lose, they won.
They really did.
You shouldn't be penalized because you get a 29-point lead. And then you back off a little bit because you should be whatever. So
no, like people are saying we got to draft a new quarterback. Now I want to know one quarterback that's draftable out of the college that's going to come in and would beat out Kirk Cousins.
Well, I watched Todd McShay. I came home, turned the TV on. I think it was yesterday, and I turned it on to ESPN, and he was talking that maybe the top quarterback is out of Pittsburgh, and he would draft him like 12th or 13th.
Yeah, the quarterbacks aren't going like last year.
The Vikings could end up around the 12th or 13th pick. So
that's fine.
It's legitimate they could draft a quarterback.
I have no problem with that.
But hey, if I said it once on this show, I'm going to say it again. Put some big guys up front, so that the quarterback doesn't have to worry about dancing around and doing all the other stuff, so the running backs can run, so he's got time to throw the ball.
Well, and keep in mind, you're a math teacher. You got to look at the numbers, and the numbers really don't lie. Cousins is consistently coming in under 10 in his ratings, and it's just like.
Everybody's been begging him to be more aggressive, so what did he do? He went out and started being more aggressive, and now they're mad at him. It's just like, you good people. What the heck is wrong with you?
Big game coming up.
Against the Bears?
Against the Bears. They almost took care of business with the Pack, or at least for the first. Yeah, for the first half they did. First half they did. Yeah, the Packers. It's still the Aaron Rodgers show. Yeah, the Vikings. It's not over because there's 4 games left. I know. They lose to Chicago, but they got Chicago twice, and they got the Rams and the Packers. Yes. Well, in theory, they should go 2-2 in those games, and they would end up 8-9, which probably is not going to get them in the playoffs. So they got to take care of business. Oh, they do, and they got to pick one of the others up. Well, and I think the game that they have to pick off is LA. This is one of the top teams in the league, and if you're going to make that playoffs, you have to beat one of the top teams in the league. They already beat Green Bay. And I think one of the things about it is everybody's kind of hoping that Green Bay is going to have things wrapped up. Well, they're going to have the division wrapped up, but they're looking to play at home the entire way. And with Arizona and Tampa Bay also being 10-3 at this time, when the Vikings play the Packers, it is not going to be while the Packers can weigh down, because that ain't going to happen. No. That's not going to happen. No. So before they all meet the Patriots. Oh, he's jumping on the Patriots bandwagon. Yeah. A lot of people are. Well, it's an amazing team. It's an amazing coach. Who knows what they're going to come up with? A good friend, Marianne, might be right, though. It could be. Who's going to be, if the Chiefs play like the way they did last week? Chiefs are hot now. I mean, they are. It took them a while to get there. But, I remember when they were 0-2, or 2-2 and all the rest. So they've had their innings and their outings. So
anything else NFL-wise that you want to chat about before we move along?
I can't think of any.
Well, before we go to college football, where you want to go, I'm sure you've seen the hat, and I'm going to...
Yeah, I watched the game. That was quite a game.
The Winnipeg Blue Bombers are now back-to-back CFL champions. My Blue Bombers.
Well, that was quite an ending last...
Well, I know Uncle Paul, if you can believe this, picked up the Winnipeg radio station, 680, to listen. He was listening to it, and then the Wild game came on, and he says, you got to keep me updated. But he says, there was 19-10 at the end of the third quarter, but he says, I think your Blue Bombers are in trouble. And I said, they got the wind in the fourth quarter, and the wind was gusty in Hamilton. It was definitely a tale of two quarters, and they came through. Scary, 25-25, had to go to overtime to take care of business, but they did. And I'm pretty happy with my Blue Bombers.
Well, I just have to remember that one of the Hamilton Ticats used to live in the house that I live in,
yes.
and I'm, and I think, oh.
Bronco Nagurski Jr. was a member of the Ticats from, was it 59 to 65, I think?
Yeah, he was.
And so was a member of some championship teams out there, and so yeah, I'm sure he was pulling for his Ticats, but I had to stick with my Blue Bombers.
And actually, I had to too. I had an uncle who lived in Winnipeg, used to scream all the time, get bigger, you can go play for the Blue Bombers.
Well, hopefully I'll get back up there next fall, next summer, to watch my Blue Bombers. And
well, that's really, they start in July, and it's I
went
like
up there in
concept.
July for a game. The first Blue Bombers game I went to was probably 15 years ago. And you're going up in July, and we knew it was possibly going to rain, so we brought our rain gear with. But the high temperature for that day was 4. And then you got soaking wet, and the wind blew.
It was cold.
We went underneath, and you could see the people's breath. This was in July, folks. I can tell you a whole story about the whole winter. That was, I fell in love with the Blue Bombers that day. And anyway, we can talk about the Blue Bombers. Are we going to finish up with the Army-Navy thing? Or
No, we can talk about the Army-Navy game. I'll tell you, it was a great game. I knew that Navy was a lot better than 3-8 when they were slapping Cincinnati upside the head, when they were making a very good accountability of themselves at Notre Dame. These guys, they play an incredible schedule, much harder than the other service academies. So I watched them play, and I saw them play quite a few games, but the Cincinnati game impressed me because defensively they just swarmed. And I thought, if there's one way for them to beat Army, they could just swarm. Now, Army had some 256 yards rushing the first half. They had 57 the second half. And so Navy picked up that defense and just snuffed them. And it's just like you watched it, and Army would have a chance to tie it or something like that, and Navy would just come and snuff them again. No, it was a great football game. I got to tell you, Navy has big linemen. 6'6", 300-pounder. I don't know what ship he's at. Anyway, his sideline is a comic, stand-up comic. But he stands up and tells the sickest jokes that he can find, the sickest, dumbest jokes that he can find. For example,
oh boy,
yeah.
Hang on, everybody.
What is fuzzy and green and will kill you if it fell out of a tree? A pool table. And then this great big guy would just laugh. Well, on Saturday he wasn't laughing. Yeah, he was at the end of the game, but his name was Franklin Jr., and he is just this incredible character for Navy. And and I get this stuff from College Game Day, and they had Pete Dawkins on there from the 1958 Army Heisman Trophy winner from the Army, and I remember him when he was a kid. He did a lot of commercials and stuff. He was pretty suave, and so he was up there, and he says, this team is this team is that. He had a pretty good grasp of the college situation. And then they come and he says, you haven't said, who are you picking for the Army-Navy game? And he turned around, he says, do you have to ask? And, when you see this, you see, this is, to the rest of us, this is a great game, and I've enjoyed this game for many years. But to some of these people, this is important. And
well, there's really nothing else, is there?
No, there really is nothing else. So, no, I'll be the first one. I got my Swabo friend over there.
Yeah.
Navy won the game! Navy won the game!
He's busy.
He's busy.
He's dialed in.
Yeah.
So I have two other questions.
Yes.
How was Valentini's?
Oh. I'm telling you, like I said,
even with it being 2 days old, it was still delicious?
No, we kept that really thing, and we brought it in, pulled it in the grill in there. There were people eating on it all day. I see the
remnants are still
over there. But Sue's been coming back and forth for Hibbing, my wife, and she stops at Valentini's and she picks up lunch as well. I have taken to chicken cacciatore, and they make great chicken cacciatore. So I've had, over the course of the last 5 days, at least 2 suppers of chicken cacciatore from Valentini's. So it's really been good. Now, Valentini's for Italian food is as good as you're going to find in all of northern Minnesota. They got a restaurant in Duluth, so I included down there. But Valentini's is a great restaurant, and I do love going there, and I love eating their food.
And how was the party?
The party was good, except of course, it got more ruckus as the day went on. It started at 2 o'clock, and by 5:30 the Saturday afternoon, rowdies were coming in.
Sure.
And I knew most of them from school, so they kind of didn't harass me. But no, there was plenty of food. Bob and I looked at the food and thought, oh, they'll eat it, and they did, and we got out of there. No, we just missed Welcome because he was out doing a grandpa thing, and I understand.
Those things happen.
They do.
Did you get to watch North Dakota State, East Tennessee State before the Army-Navy?
I did watch North Dakota State, and North Dakota State.
Are they winding it up?
Yeah.
They got it going? Or
they got it going. Well, it all depends, but they certainly took care of business on Saturday.
Yeah, they got James Madison coming up this weekend at home. Plenty of tickets left over. I keep hearing it on ESPN. I keep getting the emails because my daughter went to North Dakota State. There's lots of good tickets left. Come on out. We want to support our Bison. And they get James Madison this week. And then, of course, on the other side, South Dakota State, unseeded, played in the championship game last spring. They made their way through, and they get number 8 Montana State, who beat number 1 Sam Houston State.
Well,
I think I see a collision between the Jackrabbits and the Bison coming up in January.
It very well could be. When you take a look at Sam Houston, they had a very good team last year. In fact, they're the ones that knocked off North Dakota, I believe, going into the playoffs. So, hey, these teams at that level, pretty good football teams.
Yeah, would be nice to see an all-northern final, see the Jackrabbits and the Bison play in the championship.
And I don't know how many Minnesota boys you see with a combination from those teams, but quite a few.
A lot of Minnesota kids.
Yeah,
obviously they're getting some more talent from outside.
Yeah.
But of course today was National Signing Day.
It was.
I didn't. All I know, my phone blew up this morning with all these guys that were signing with the Gophers that, of course, I've never heard of before, but looks like George has some of them.
I ran this thing off, and the big one who's getting all the press is Spencer Alvarez, and he's a tight end from Columbia Heights, and they have a picture of him in the Tribune today. Oh. Yeah. He looks like a solid young man. He's big, he's strong, got a smile on his face. The thing is about being a college football player these days, it helps if you have a certain level of charm. We didn't have to have a charm. We had to have a flipper. And so, but these days, and these kids do. They're smart. They know what's going on, and I think that I think Spencer Alvarez is going to be a blue chipper. And then Trey Bixby, he's defensive line from Eden Prairie, and he's been shuffling Eden Prairie around for quite a while. The last few years, and you watched him play I didn't see him this year, but last year I did. He really takes care of chunks of line. But there's all kinds of kids. Mankato West, and then there was this young guy, Jacob Eggert from Mankato East. He's a quarterback at Minnesota Duluth. I noticed that was coming on. As we go through it a little bit more, we got Darian Stevens from Chaplin Park, defensive back to North Dakota State. Colton Hackle from Perham, quarterback, North Dakota. And then Kristen Hoskins in Alexandria, he's a wide receiver. I mean, we're getting wide receivers out of Minnesota.
This kid I heard about from our good friend Evan Omdahl.
Yeah.
He's a 4.3-er.
A 4.3?
He's a 4.3-er in the 40 supposedly. This kid, 4.4 type speed from Alexandria. He said when Bemidji played Alexandria in the state quarterfinals, he said you just had to follow this kid to where he was lined up. He was in the backfield. They were going to hand him the ball. If he was out, they were going to throw him the ball. He kind of drove the bus. He did everything. And he ended up beating him basically single-handedly. They got the ball in his hands, and he beat him. So this kid, I'm interested to see what kind of speed he has.
We got another one coming up here. Tony Nelson from Tracy Milroy, and he's an offensive lineman. And I've seen this kid, and I don't know what it takes to develop an offensive line, but you don't have to worry about size. This kid has it.
Yeah.
I go down my list here.
Yeah, the Gophers did kept as they said, the Georgia pipeline was open today. Lots of kids from Georgia. So
yes.
We'll see what happens. I'm like I said, all time will tell on a lot of these kids.
No, I want to take just a second and talk about the Minnesota, West Virginia game. Okay, he says. Okay, so this game probably isn't going to be high scoring, but it should be close, and sometimes that's good enough. Why they go about it in different ways, Minnesota runs the ball so frequently, you might confuse it with a triple option. The result is the same. Both teams average 2.25 yards per drive, points per drive, just above the national average of 2.2. And as you know, what the matchup reminds me of is go back to when this game was called the Cheez-It Bowl, not to be confused with the Cheez-It Bowl, and TCU and California played to a 10-7 thriller that needed overtime to find a winner. It was one of the worst played great games of all time and will live on forever in the Bad Bowl Game Hall of Fame. While it's nearly impossible standard to meet, I think we could see history repeat itself here. Oh, and it's played in a baseball stadium. So much potential for stupid there. And so people are kind of looking at this as, kind of a jokus. And I think if they would have played on the 30th or the 1st, it wouldn't have been so much.
I think with Kirk Shiraka coming back into the fold, I think that's going to change.
Yeah.
You're going to see a little bit different team, a different play calling, not maybe so run-orientated. Yes, we know that's where the bread is made with the Gophers. But I think we're going to see things open up a little bit. You're going to see teams doing a little different.
And this is something else I ran across about the future of the Gophers, and they got a lot of people coming back. They got Mo Abraham coming back. They have Atman Bell.
Everybody's favorite quarterback, Tanner Morgan.
Tanner Morgan's coming back. I mean, if Abraham's coming back, what other kind of people do they have in that running back stadium?
Yeah,
and he's picking up all kinds of portal transfers.
Well, I talked about Shiraka. Did you read the article in the Minneapolis about when he picked him up at the airport? It was just like, hey, it's not like whatever. It's like, hey, I'm picking you up at the airport. Let's go to work.
Let's go to work. Yeah.
Whatever else. It was just.
Yeah.
I think that's pretty.
Yeah, cool. That's just like working with you and Nordquist. It's the same thing.
So, Anything else college football-wise?
I can't think of anything, but the bowl games will be starting
next week. We'll probably have to do a little talking about that for next week's show.
Along.
Our Christmas show, God knows what we'll come dressed up in next week. Shall we talk volleyball?
Let's talk some volleyball.
Let's talk some NCAA volleyball. The Gophers, nice comeback against Baylor.
They did.
And the number 12 over the number 5, but they couldn't find the get over the top against Wisconsin, who now beat them 3 times this season.
Wisconsin has an incredible volleyball team, number 1. And, you know, I call them swats. The hits that were coming across on either side of the net, they were dangerous. You know, and it's just like, and I watch these 2 teams with these incredible women athletes, and they're big and strong and have, you know, can jump that high. They're really incredible. And I have to say, Hugh McCutcheon, talk about a coach that has both feet on the ground. He never really loses his cool about anything, and just goes out there and does this job. I mean, if you're going to have a Gopher Coach of the Year, Hugh McCutcheon's going to give my nod. He's a big guy.
He's built a program here that's consistently there. Obviously, it'd have been nice to be playing in the Final Four, but it wasn't meant to be.
No, and besides, you know, there's a lot of teams that would have been glad to get into the Elite 8. In fact, 90% of them. So this does happen. And when you get to the Elite 8, what that does is pose an opportunity for you to win. That's all it poses, because the rest of these teams are so good. And it's, you know.
So Nebraska comes through. They take down number 2 Texas. So there's 2 chances for the Big Ten, and they're on opposite sides of the bracket. So on Saturday night, the semis are Thursday, the finals are on Saturday. It's possible we could have all Big Ten matchup.
Well, that's Wisconsin and UCLA, and
Wisconsin plays number 1
Louisville, and
who apparently is undefeated this year.
Yeah, and Pittsburgh.
Then Pittsburgh gets Nebraska. And so we'll see how things play out there. You got 3 of the top 4 seeded teams in, 1, 3, 4.
Yeah.
Texas got beat by Nebraska. That's the only.
That's the reason you have seeds.
So things pretty much played to order. So obviously Thursday night, tomorrow afternoon, while I'm down at Virginia doing a girls basketball game, it's going to be kind of like. What? I don't know. There could be some one eye drifting, but of course, yeah. So anyway, we'll see what happens. Saturday night's the final. Hopefully, it doesn't interfere with the Blues hour, because
no, it shouldn't.
The Blues hour. Come on, we got George Fraith we're doing here. So
this is a list like I have never put together before. Never thought I would have to.
Christmas show coming up this weekend.
It's a Christmas show coming up this weekend.
And we're actually going to play it 2 weeks in a row. We'll play it on Christmas Eve night as well. So if you haven't listened to the Blues show, the Rainy Lake Blues Hour, take a listen on KGHS 1230 AM, 95.3 FM, shameless plug. Here we go. Anyway, what else do we got to talk
shameless
about?
Plug. Well, tell me about what's going on over at Falls High. There's all kinds of stuff.
Before we get to that, did you watch Raw on Monday night?
No.
I screwed up.
Yeah.
I was at home on Monday night. One of the few nights it seems like I had off. And I could have turned. I usually flip through the channels, and I stop at Raw just to see what's going on. Well, this week they were in Minneapolis, and guess who was on? Our good friend Gable.
He was,
had his medal there, he was biting it, and he was part of the show and whatever else. Because it was in Minneapolis, he didn't have to travel and whatever else. So I missed it. I feel bad for that, but...
there might be a repeat.
They'll probably swing them in once the season's over and everything else. And,
you know, one of the things about Stevenson you have to remember, he's a showman. He'll be the first one to admit it. You know, he says, football player, I'm a showman. And, you know, I mean, he just is. He enjoys entertaining crowds, and he's going to enjoy entertaining crowds and make a lot of money doing it for a long time.
Yeah, you got to believe that's what's going to happen. Yeah, over at Falls High, the Bronco girls basketball team is the story.
Yeah.
Obviously, 4-0 to start the season. Didn't get to play their game last night against Big Fork. Big Fork is either going through some sickness issues, whether it's COVID or not, nobody's really saying. But they get Virginia, good test, IRC matchup on Thursday night, the game I was talking about doing on the radio. we'll see where they're going to be at. They get Deer River. They're going to have a lot of their IRC games out of the way before the holiday season. Good or bad, Maddie Lowe has kind of been, well, she's a senior captain, and she's acting like it. And
oh, that's nice.
Exciting win in Ely last Friday, 57-56. Biggest lead for Ely, 5 points. Biggest lead for the Broncos was 6 with just over a minute left. That game felt like it. I mean, I was spent after it. I'm like, my gosh, who knew where it was going to go? But a fun game nonetheless. The Broncos come through, and so that was fun to watch. The Bronco boys basketball team's 0-4. They can't even play a JV game right now. They've got so many kids that are out. So hopefully those players will start to filter back in, and hopefully Mr. Rolando and crew will get the ship righted.
Well, they got quite an engine in this Jet Tomjack kid.
35 points the other night down at Proctor, and 31, or the other day at Proctor, 31 against Evelyn the other night. So yeah, he's one of the kids that is going to have to show up every night if the Broncos are going to be successful.
Okay.
Boys hockey team's 0-4. Not the way they wanted to start the season, but new goaltenders, new forwards up front that have got to play a lot. They've been dealing with injuries as well, so they're dealing with limited numbers. And the girls hockey team, of course, you know, they played against Detroit Lakes here a couple of Saturdays ago and scored 4 goals. It was an exciting game, and they keep working and getting better. So. And then the boys swimming and diving team, I wish I could tell you what happened, but they went to Mesabi East and had one varsity swimmer with them.
And how many points did he score?
I think he scored about a 14 by himself, and then the relays got some points. And so, anyway, the boys swimming team, Steve Joslin, head coach, is most excited I've ever seen him about a team. So, and of course, we should mention Destiny Pekarski. Not that it's all about scoring points, but for her, you know, 54 in one game, 46 in the next.
See, I don't mind that.
Not too shabby.
No.
She only scored 17 against Southridge. Last night she only got 5 and was injured. Don't know how bad it is. Was going to the doctor today. We'll see how that all pans out for the.
You know, one of the things about these young athletes, you know, they're still growing, and they have these growth plates in their legs and such. And it's and I think that was probably the better part that took Paige Bokers down. You know, it's just, you know, the way that leg folded up, it was, it just didn't function anymore. And so you see what happens, especially, you know, taller girls and girls that have powerful muscles, they have a tendency of cranking that leg around.
It does happen.
It does happen. Yeah.
Anyway, I think that's what's going on in high school sports-wise. You know, it's holidays coming up here, and everybody trying to jam in a few games before, and that's what's happening. So, what else? How did the Bemidji Squirts do last Sunday? I forgot.
They actually played 2 games over at Cary Park against two of the Falls teams, and they
heard they put a hurting on them.
Well, they kind of put a hurting on them, and you know, and
those big bad bullies from Bemidji.
Yeah. Anyway,
enough B words in there.
Yeah, my grandson was, my son said, you know, it's fun coming back to your hometown and seeing old friends and classmates coaching the other side, and your son getting a breakaway goal. And so, you know, and he actually got 2 of them. He's playing defense, you know, and he's just, you know, you can tell he really wants to rush the net. He loves rushing the net. This is what he loves to do. He always lifts his head up to see if it's a doable thing. But he was fighting hard to get the hat trick for his grandparents, but he didn't. But he played well. The team played well. They passed the puck really well. They're very well coached. And this is the Squirt Bees. This isn't. But they said their Squirt Bees are so good that they're having a hard time getting good competition with other Squirt Bees teams. And so
I'm going to ask, because I didn't ask before, and I was just thinking about what haven't we discussed. Do the Vikings win on Monday against the Bears?
I think they will, and I'm going to even stretch that a little bit more. You know, if they can bring a couple of people back and keep that defense somewhat intact, They're gonna give the Rams a good show. It's amazing what a professional football team can do when their back's against the wall. And so, yeah.
Final thought. Did I show you guys the t-shirts yet? The George Strait t-shirt?
Listen to the show. It's a good one.
Thanks, George. Thanks, everybody. We'll talk to you next week.